This view of life is a challenge to the immature Christian. The immature Christian views life in God and with God the way the world views life, from the standpoint of options. In other words, God's claim on our life is one of the many options we can choose. To the secular humanist and the immature Christian, much of life is random, accidental, and haphazard. The will and way of God are seen as peripheral, not essential. The world says we can negotiate with God. We can strike a compromise with God. We can delay and even deny the call and claims of God on us and for us. The dictates of God are a matter of what we might do and not what we must do. They are possibilities, not necessities. The immature Christian, like the world, operates from mightness as it relates to God, God's will, and God's way. On the contrary, the mature Christian comes to understand that life in God and with God is less about what we could do and more about what we must do. Freedom in Christ does not make God's desire of us and for us optional. Freedom in Christ disentangles us so we are able to respond to that which is necessary for us from God and in God. God is calling for Christians to grow up in Him and realize that He calls us to a life of the necessary. He calls us to realize the mustness of our life with Him. As we read about the life of Jesus, we get a sense of mustness. Throughout the Gospels, we hear Jesus say, "I must." We read of Jesus, He must. We hear Jesus tell His disciples or His audience, "You must." Kingdom living, living under the rule and reign of God, is living with a sense of must, not might, in relation to God. Often we focus on the I am statements of Jesus. Seldom do we focus on the I must statements. I believe that if we focus on the I must statements, we will come to understand necessary Christianity. Chapter 1. I must focus, the necessity of focus. The child grew and became strong in spirit, filled with wisdom, and the grace of God was upon him. His parents went to Jerusalem every year at the feast of the Passover. And when he was 12 years old, they went up to Jerusalem, according to the custom of the feast. When they had finished the days, as they returned, the boy Jesus lingered behind in Jerusalem. And Joseph and his mother did not know it. But supposing him to have been in the company, they went a day's journey and sought him among their relatives and acquaintances. So when they did not find him, they returned to Jerusalem, seeking him. Now so it was that after 3 days they found him in the temple, sitting in the midst of the teachers, both listening to them and asking them questions. And all who heard him were astonished at his understanding and answers. So when they saw him, they were amazed, and his mother said to him, "Son, why have you done this to us? Look, your father and I have sought you anxiously." And he said to them, "Why did you seek me?"